Whether you enjoy cooking for your family or for a significant other, like to experiment with new recipes, or work in a food service industry, cooking is a huge part of many people's lives. Read this article to find out new cooking tips that can help you in any setting. To maximize the efficiency of the cooking that you do, always make your food in large quantities, and when you are finished with the meal, store the meats in freezer bags. This will allow you to create a meal the next day for your family that is still fresh and tastes great. Use a heavy-duty, Ziploc plastic bag to separate pan drippings. After roasting meat, pour the pan drippings into a Ziploc plastic bag. Let the fat rise to the top. Carefully snip off one of the bottom corners on the bag and pour out the fat-free broth. The fat will stay in the plastic bag, and you will have a tasty broth as a base for gravy or a sauce. If you are baking, one thing that you can do is to leave your eggs and butter at room temperature overnight. This will prepare them to be used as ingredients when you bake the next day. Understanding the temperature to store certain ingredients will help to maximize the ease of creating your meal. Basil is one of the best things that you can add to a dish, and looks great as a decoration to any type of meal. Simply add a few pieces of basil to give your meal spice and improve the overall aesthetic beauty to the dish you put on the table. When cooking steak, make sure the pan you are using is really hot so that it sears the outside of the meat and keeps all of the juices inside. This will make your steak taste great, and it won't be dried out, since all of the flavors is still sealed inside of the meat. Don't be afraid to over-season your meat. Most people actually under-season, because the cooking process will weaken the flavor of some spices. With the exception of salt, most seasonings will better enhance the flavor if you use about twice as much as you think you should. Cooking tip: sweet treat for smelly fingers. Cleaning fish or shrimp is a messy task and leaves a distinctive smell on your hand for at least a day. There is an effective way of removing the smell. Squish a few fresh strawberries between your fingers for a couple of minutes and rinse your hand with soapy water. The smell will disappear instantly. To sauté vegetables, use chicken broth in place of oil or butter. This way you'll use less oil while still giving the veggies a nice flavor. This is a delicious and healthy way to easily cook vegetables. Keep dental floss handy in the kitchen to cut or slice soft foods or ingredients. Unflavored dental floss works better than a knife when it comes to cutting soft cheeses, cake, pie, or other soft foods or ingredients. Just unwind a length long enough to allow you to stretch it across the item to be cut, and apply even, downward pressure for clean, neat cuts. When working with poultry, use this useful tip to let your poultry shine. Soak the poultry in a brine solution composed of salt and water overnight before cooking the poultry. Soaking the poultry in brine will help to unlock the flavors buried in the meat and make the poultry succulent and moist, creating an incredible poultry dish. When baking, here is a tip for eggs and butter. Let your eggs and butter set out overnight at room temperature. Doing so will soften the butter, which will make it easier to spread, melt, and mix with other ingredients. The eggs will be easier to beat, and foaming egg whites will be easier as well. Rather than using a traditional store-bought dressing when making a salad, try making your own vinaigrette. A vinaigrette that is homemade will contain less ingredients than store-bought ones and have no preservatives. This makes the vinaigrette more natural and better tasting. Simply shake the ingredients in a sealed container and enjoy. Use fresh products if available. Nothing packs the punch in cooking like the taste of fresh ingredients. Vegetables, meats, and fruits all contain vibrant, savory, and wholesome flavors that can be severely diminished by processing and canning or packaging. When cooked properly, fresh ingredients will make any dish more flavorful. When preparing a pasta dish, you should add salt to the boiling water before adding the noodles. This will allow the pasta to take on the seasoning more efficiently. Salting the pasta after cooking it does not allow it to hold seasoning that well. To avoid wasting chipotle peppers when you need only a couple from a can, puree the remaining peppers and adobo in a blender or food processor, then transfer the puree to an ice cube tray lined with plastic wrap and place it in the freezer. When the puree is frozen, move the cubes to a freezer bag. You can use the chipotle cubes in soups, sauces, taco meat, and more. If you want a delicious meal with little effort, try a roast dinner. Simply chop up some vegetables. Carrots, potatoes, onions, and peppers all work well. Add a piece of meat with a little oil and seasoning. Roast at 400 degrees for about an hour, or until the meat is thoroughly cooked. That's easier than you thought. When browning or sauté copywriting foods, make sure that you do not overcrowd the pan. Rather than creating a luscious, browned crust on your foods, overcrowding results in steaming. Try cooking the food in smaller batches or using 2 pans, instead of cramming too much into a single pan or skillet. Having the ability to cook looks good on a resume, and is also attractive to romantic partners. To make the most of your skills in the kitchen, just take this article's advice to heart.